Go back to Mexico. The shriek sliced through the relaxed poolside chatter, ugly and sharp. Have you ever heard words so hateful they make the air itself feel thick and poisoned? Everything stopped. Conversations died mid-sentence. Drink glasses paused halfway to lips. I felt my own hand tighten around my iced tea, the condensation suddenly feeling like ice water against my skin. All eyes snapped towards the source, a woman practically vibrating with indignation, her face flushed, that sharp blonde bob seeming almost weaponized under the bright sun. She was yelling at Mateo, one of my best pool attendants, whose only crime was trying to do his job. And she looked proud.
Smug.
Like she'd just dropped some profound truth bomb. What she didn't know, what she couldn't possibly comprehend in her bubble of entitlement, was that the luxurious ground she stood on, the entire sprawling resort paradise surrounding her, it was mine.
Built by my family.
Steeped in the very heritage she was spitting on. She hadn't just insulted Mateo. She'd insulted my grandmother's legacy. She'd insulted me. And her little world was about to get rocked. Stick around, because you won't believe how this plays out. My name is Isabella Rossi. And yes, there's Italian in my background, but the heart of my family's story, the soul of this place, is deeply rooted in my Mexican-American heritage. It was my abuela Elena, my grandmother, who was the real force of nature. She saw this wild stretch of coastline decades ago, when others dismissed it, and she poured her life into it. She faced down the doubters, the bankers who wouldn't take a woman, especially a woman of color, seriously back then. She started with just a few simple bungalows, driven by sheer grit and an unwavering belief in creating a place of genuine welcome. I practically grew up on this property. Salty hair, sandy feet, helping abuela shell peas in the kitchen, absorbing her stories of overcoming obstacles. She taught me resilience, the importance of treating everyone with dignity, and that quiet inner fire you need when the world tries to tell you no. My Mexican roots weren't just ancestry. They were the foundation of her strength and mine. When she left the resort to me after I finished my business degree, the weight of responsibility felt immense. Honestly, I was terrified. But I also felt this fierce pull to honor her, to build on her dream. It's been 15 years of pouring my own blood, sweat, and tears into Solana Resort. Navigating recessions, rebuilding after storms, dealing with the constant challenges of the hospitality world. As a woman taking the helm, I faced my own share of skepticism, people underestimating me simply because I didn't fit their mold of a resort owner. But Abuela's stubborn spirit? It's in my DNA. We grew. Carefully, thoughtfully. Added the spa, the infinity pool that seems to melt into the ocean, the restaurant where you can taste the passion of our chefs. We became a place people saved up to visit, a place that supported over 200 local families, many connected to the resort since Abuela's time. It's more than a business, it's a community. It's home. And me? I learned I preferred managing from within, not from some lofty office. My general manager, David, is brilliant at being the public face. I handle the strategy, the vision, and I like to blend in. You'll often find me in a simple sundress and sandals, maybe chatting with guests by the coffee bar or observing the dinner service from a quiet corner. Most people assume I'm just another vacationer enjoying the sun. It lets me feel the true rhythm of the resort, see things firsthand, stay connected to Abuela's original spirit. It usually works perfectly, until someone like Brenda checks in. Her arrival felt less like a guest checking in and more like an invasive species being introduced. I was near the front desk, discussing new bougainvillea plantings with Carlos, our head groundskeeper, when she swept through the entrance. Designer luggage, oversized sunglasses worn indoors like a shield, and an aura of immediate, simmering discontent. Her voice, like nails on a chalkboard, cut through the lobby's calm ambience. "Is this supposed to be the check-in?" she announced loudly, gesturing dismissively at the two couples waiting patiently ahead of her. Unbelievable. Maya, at the front desk, flashed her trained, warm smile. Welcome to Solana Resort, ma'am. We'll have you checked in momentarily. Momentarily. Brenda tapped a long, coral pink nail on the marble counter.
Bang, bang, bang.
I have a suite. Booked months ago. I expect prompt service, not queuing. The word dripped with disdain. The couple in front of her exchanged a weary glance. I felt a familiar tightening in my chest, the premonition of a difficult guest. Brenda proceeded to critique the welcome juice. Is this fresh? Really? The lobby temperature stifling, and demanded intricate details about her suite's precise astrological alignment for sunset viewing. Maya handled it with superhuman grace, but I saw the slight tremor in her hand as she processed the check-in. Later, I sought refuge by the adults-only Serenity Pool, hoping for a quiet hour with my book. I was in my usual off-duty uniform, linen shorts, a faded tank top, hair in a messy bun. Then, Brenda appeared, pacing like a caged tiger along the pool's edge, phone glued to her ear. Completely unacceptable thread count, Martha. It feels like sandpaper. Her voice carried easily over the gentle splash of the fountain. And the toiletries? Generic. At these prices. Honestly, the standards here are slipping. She kicked off her expensive slides, one nearly skidding into the pristine water, and tested the temperature with a dramatic toe dip.
Ugh.
Chemical soup. My skin is far too sensitive for this. I lowered my book, watching her. It wasn't just complaining. It was the contempt beneath it. The sneering dismissal of the immense effort my team poured into every detail, from the thread counts, Egyptian cotton, meticulously sourced, to the water chemistry, checked hourly. Javier, another young attendant, approached her cautiously. Excuse me, ma'am? May I offer you a beverage? Perhaps a chilled towel. Brenda waved him away, without looking up from her phone. Just ensure no riffraff disturbs my peace. Her tone made riffraff sound like a particularly nasty disease. Javier retreated, his shoulders slumping slightly. I felt a cold knot form in my stomach. This woman radiated negativity. And the way she dismissed Javier, the way her eyes had flickered over me earlier with zero recognition, I had a sinking feeling her definition of riffraff might be broader and perhaps more specific than just loud children. This wasn't just entitlement. It felt personal. It felt targeted. The peace I sought was shattered. This was going to be a long week. The next few days were a masterclass in sustained Karenism. Brenda seemed to find fault in the very molecules of the air. Each interaction was laced with condescension, each request framed as a demand from a long-suffering monarch. Breakfast became an ordeal. I sat nursing a coffee, trying to read the morning news on my tablet, but her voice carried from a nearby table. This coffee is lukewarm, she declared to Luis, who had just poured it steaming from the carafe. And is this bacon locally sourced? It lacks character. Luis, bless his infinite patience, merely offered to bring her a fresh cup. Then, she turned her ire on Sophia, a sweet young woman bussing tables. Clang, clang, clang. Do you have to be so noisy? She snapped, as Sophia carefully stacked plates. Sophia froze, her face flushing crimson, and mumbled an apology before practically fleeing towards the kitchen. I saw Maria, the restaurant manager, intercept her, offering a comforting word before smoothly approaching Brenda's table. Maria was a master diplomat, but even she looked weary. The tension Brenda created was palpable. Other diners were actively trying to ignore her, focusing intently on their plates. The main pool incident with the family was particularly ugly. Brenda, lounging like Cleopatra on her preferred chaise, took offense to children laughing. Laughing. At a family resort pool. She flagged down Mateo, demanding he silence them. This isn't a public playground, she hissed, loud enough for the parents to hear. Mateo politely explained the pool rules and that the children weren't being excessively disruptive. Brenda puffed up like an angry adder. Are you contradicting me? I pay your salary. Tell them to be quiet or move. The father gave her a look that could strip paint, but wisely chose to relocate his family, muttering about professional complainers. Brenda settled back, radiating smug victory. Mateo caught my eye across the deck. The frustration was clear in his expression before his professional mask slipped back on. I gave him a subtle thumbs-up of support. It felt woefully inadequate. Her microaggressions became more pointed, often directed at staff with brown skin. She'd speak deliberately slowly to Maria, whose English was flawless and accented only by her advanced degrees. She'd make comments about the overly ethnic spices in the ceviche at the grill. She left a note for housekeeping complaining about a suspicious smudge on a window that looked suspiciously like her own fingerprint. I knew I needed to let David handle the official complaints, document everything meticulously. Protocol was important. But seeing my team subjected to this daily grind of disrespect was eating away at me. I considered intervening more directly, but I also knew escalating prematurely could sometimes backfire, giving someone like Brenda more ammunition to play the victim. I decided to watch, gather more evidence, and trust David and security to monitor her closely. He confirmed they had flagged her as a high-maintenance, potentially problematic guest. Still, I felt a growing unease. Brenda's entitlement seemed to inflate with each passing hour she wasn't challenged forcefully. She acted as if the entire resort revolved around her whims, and anyone who didn't immediately comply was incompetent or beneath her notice. The storm wasn't just brewing anymore. It felt like the pressure was about to crack the sky open. And I had this chilling premonition that the final explosion would be deeply, personally offensive. I just didn't realize how right I was. Thursday afternoon. The main pool area humming with that perfect vacation vibe, sun high, water sparkling, soft music, laughter. I was at a shaded table near the grill, finalizing some menu designs with David standing beside me, pointing out details on his tablet. I was wearing tailored linen trousers and a crisp white blouse, still aiming for understated, but perhaps projecting a bit more authority than usual. Brenda was holding court nearby, complaining loudly to the unfortunate couple trapped in her orbit. Her target this time, Mateo, who was hustling to keep up with drink orders in the afternoon heat. Pool boy. Brenda's voice cracked like a whip. My Pellegrino.
Now.
Did you fall asleep back there? Mateo hurried over, tray in hand. My apologies for the wait, ma'am. It's very busy. Here is your water. His voice was tight, professional. Brenda snatched the glass. About time. The service here is just pathetic. She took a noisy gulp, then grimaced. Is this even chilled properly? Before Mateo could reply, her gaze drifted across the pool. A vibrant, diverse group of young women, celebrating a milestone, were laughing and posing for photos. One young woman, who happened to be Latina, let out a joyful, infectious laugh. Brenda's entire body tensed. Her head swiveled, eyes narrowing. Unbelievable, she stage whispered, loud enough for half the pool deck to hear. The nerve of some people. This is supposed to be an exclusive resort, not some noisy fiesta down at the barrio. Mateo froze. I saw his knuckles whiten where he gripped the empty tray. David beside me stiffened. Ma'am, Mateo began, his voice strained but level. Please show respect for our other guests. That was the trigger. The unforgivable sin in Brenda's world, being corrected by someone she deemed inferior. Her face contorted, flushing a blotchy red. Excuse me? Are you telling me what to do? You? A glorified cabana boy. I am asking you to be respectful, Mateo repeated, holding his ground, though I could see the effort it took. Respectful. Brenda let out a harsh, ugly laugh. Respect is earned. And frankly, people like you. She gestured vaguely, encompassing Mateo, the laughing group, perhaps even me in her peripheral vision, are ruining this place. It used to be decent. The implication hung there, thick and vile. Gasps rippled through the nearby guests. The group across the pool fell silent, staring. Phones began to emerge, discreetly at first, then more obviously. People sensed this was escalating beyond a simple complaint. The air crackled. I took a half step forward, ready to intervene, but Brenda wasn't done. Fueled by rage and the unwanted attention, she advanced on Mateo, stabbing a finger towards his chest. You know what? Why don't you just do everyone a favor? Go back where you came from. Go back to Mexico.
Silence.
Absolute, ringing silence. Even the distant waves seemed to hold their breath. Mateo stood rooted to the spot, his face a mask of shock and deep hurt. Maria, rushing over, stopped dead, her hand flying to her mouth. Brenda, breathing heavily, scanned the silent onlookers. A flicker of uncertainty crossed her face, quickly replaced by that defiant, smug tightening of her lips. She'd said the unsayable, and in that moment, she seemed to think she'd won. She hadn't just crossed a line. She'd detonated a bomb. An ignorant, hateful bomb, right in the heart of my resort, aimed at my employee, echoing insults hurled at my own family for generations. The time for protocol, for quiet observation, for giving the benefit of the doubt, it was vaporized. My blood ran ice cold, then surged with a hot, focused anger. I exchanged a look with David. He nodded grimly. It was time. I walked towards Brenda, my steps even, deliberate. The scrape of my sandals on the stone patio seemed unnaturally loud in the sudden quiet. All eyes were on me now. Brenda watched my approach, a sneer forming on her lips. She probably thought I was coming to agree with her, or maybe complain about the scene she was causing. Finally, she snapped as I stopped before her. Someone with some sense. Tell this boy. I cut her off, not by raising my voice, but by lowering it, making it cut through the tension like a surgeon's scalpel. I looked directly at Mateo first. Mateo, I said, my voice clear and steady. Please step back. You don't need to listen to another word of this. He looked startled, then nodded mutely, taking a step away, relief washing over his shocked features. Brenda puffed up immediately.
How dare you?
Who do you think you are, interrupting me? I am the guest here. He was insubordinate. I demand. You demand nothing, I stated, turning my full attention to her. My anger was now a cold, hard clarity. What you did was spew racist garbage at my employee. What you did was create a hostile environment for everyone around you. What you did was violate the basic terms of human decency, let alone the rules of this resort. Brenda blinked, momentarily thrown off balance by the calm, direct accusation. Then, the familiar outrage surged back. Racist? How dare you? I was merely making an observation. And who are you anyway? The fun police? Just another busybody sticking her nose where it doesn't belong. Maybe you should go back somewhere too if you don't like it. She actually tried to wave a dismissive hand in my direction, as if shooing away a fly. The sheer audacity of it almost made me laugh. Almost. Instead, I let the silence hang for a beat, letting her words echo. David and two uniformed security guards were now approaching purposefully. They stopped discreetly a few paces behind me, their presence noted by everyone, especially Brenda, whose eyes flickered towards them nervously. You seem confused, I said, my voice dangerously soft. Confused about who belongs here. Confused about who sets the standards. Confused about who's somewhere you're actually standing in right now. Brenda stared, her mouth working silently. The arrogance was faltering, replaced by a dawning unease. What are you talking about? I'm talking about the fact. I leaned in just slightly, ensuring everyone could hear, my voice ringing with quiet authority, that you are standing on property owned by my family for generations. Property built on the strength and resilience of the very heritage you just insulted. I paused, letting the weight of the words land. My name is Isabella Rossi. I own Solana Resort. The transformation was instantaneous and deeply satisfying. Brenda's jaw literally dropped. The color drained from her face, leaving her expensive tan looking sallow and unnatural. Her eyes darted around frantically, searching for denial, for escape, for any sign this wasn't real. She saw only stony faces, grim nods from David and Maria, and the impassive stances of the security guards. The recording phones were now held up openly. "No," she whispered, shaking her head frantically. "That's impossible. You can't be. You're dressed, you look like—" She trailed off, unable to articulate the prejudice her brain was clearly screaming. "Like the owner?" I finished for her, my voice laced with ice. "Perhaps you believe ownership comes with a specific uniform? A specific skin color? Your assumptions seem to be consistently flawed." Panic flared in her eyes. "But I didn't realize. It was a misunderstanding. The heat, you know. I was upset. He provoked me." The excuses tumbled out, weak and pathetic. The bully was crumbling. "There was no misunderstanding," I said firmly, cutting through her desperate backtracking. "You showed us exactly who you are. Your hatred has no place here. Your entitlement ends now." I turned to the security chief. "Mr. Hansen, please escort Ms. Wilson to her suite." Brenda gasped, grabbing her oversized handbag like a shield. "Where are you taking me? You can't just kick me out. I'll sue. I'll post reviews everywhere." "You have 30 minutes to pack your belongings," I informed her coolly. "You will then settle your final bill at the front desk, after which Mr. Hansen and his colleague will escort you off resort property immediately. You are permanently banned from Solana Resort and any affiliated properties. Any attempt to return will be treated as trespassing." This is unbelievable," she shrieked, her voice cracking. Tears of rage and humiliation welled in her eyes. "No, Ms. Wilson," I said, meeting her gaze one last time, my voice utterly final. "This is accountability." The guard stepped forward. "This way, please, Ms. Wilson." Defeated, shoulders slumped, Brenda allowed herself to be led away. There was no fight left in her, only the frantic, cornered look of someone whose privilege had finally, spectacularly failed them. As she disappeared towards the suites, a spontaneous wave of quiet, relieved applause broke out around the pool. Not triumphant, but deeply cathartic. It was the sound of decency winning. The moment Brenda was out of sight, the thick tension evaporated. Guests began to talk again, their voices low but buzzing. Several people approached me quietly, offering words of support, expressing disgust at what they'd witnessed. The family Brenda had harassed earlier came over, the father shaking my hand firmly. "Thank you," he said simply. "You handled that perfectly." My first priority was Mateo. I went over to him, joined by Maria and David. I placed a hand on his shoulder. "Mateo, from the bottom of my heart, I am so sorry that happened. Are you okay?" "Truly." He managed a genuine, though still slightly shaky, smile. "I am now, Ms. Rossi. Thank you." Seeing her face when you told her. He shook his head, a look of profound validation washing over him. "Thank you. You handled yourself with incredible dignity under immense provocation," I told him sincerely. "Take the rest of the afternoon off. Go relax. Maria, please make sure he's compensated for the full shift and let the entire team know we have a zero-tolerance policy for this garbage. Anyone ever feels unsafe or disrespected, they come straight to me or David. No exceptions." "Yes, Isabella. Absolutely," Maria confirmed, relief evident in her voice too. David confirmed Brenda was packing, under supervision, and would be off the property within the hour. Her details were already flagged in our system, permanently. Later, as the sun dipped towards the horizon, painting the sky in fiery strokes of orange and gold, I walked along the shoreline. The salty air felt clean again. The rhythmic crash of the waves was soothing. Confronting that kind of ugliness is never pleasant. It leaves a bitter residue. There's no real victory in having to expel someone, even someone who so thoroughly deserved it. But as I looked back at the lights twinkling on at Solana Resort, my resort, Abuela Elena's resort, I felt a deep, abiding sense of peace. A sense of rightness. Brenda had swaggered in, armed with prejudice and privilege, expecting the world to bend to her will. She targeted someone she saw as weak, as other, spewing venom rooted in ignorance. And she did it all while standing on ground built by the very heritage she scorned, owned by the very kind of person she sought to diminish. The poetic justice was profound. She didn't just get removed from a vacation spot. She was ejected from a legacy she couldn't even comprehend, let alone respect. Sometimes, the most satisfying revenge isn't loud or fiery. Sometimes, it's the quiet, firm click of a lock turning, ensuring that the poison stays out and the sanctuary remains safe. Abuela Elena would have understood. And I think somewhere she was smiling.